ended up inside of this bucket, instead of me showing off all these plush animals, instead, take a look right on Habitat. Our keepers are going to be sharing some of those actually edible items for our sea lions to enjoy. Now there's going to be a variety of different seafood medley. It could include a few different species of fish, including capelin or maybe even herring. And then, surprisingly enough, it will include a little bit of squid this afternoon. Our sea lions love to dine on a little bit of squid. But like I mentioned a moment ago, you folks are going to be lucky enough to see our animals really in action during not only this training session, but also a feeding demonstration as well, as our keepers interact with some of our most charismatic animals at Riverbanks. Now everyone up on top deck, you're going to see and hear a few very unique parts of this training session. Up on top deck, you folks are going to be hearing a lot of clicking noises. You're going to see a lot of equipment, just like we're noticing over here on the amphitheater side, as Annette makes quite a few splashes for us. All these trained behaviors, no matter how entertaining they might be, do have a very serious role for us here at the zoo. They allow our keepers, just like you see right now, to work very closely with these animals out on Habitat. Now some of our largest residents, for example, Baja, who's taking a dip in his big pool, weigh well over 500 pounds. That's a very large animal to work so closely with. So these behaviors really do come in handy, especially when maybe our animals aren't feeling the best. For example, we can request them to open up their eyes, present out their teeth and inside of their mouth, or even all four of their flippers. So those behaviors, even though they might be entertaining for us out in the audience, they really do have an important role here at the zoo for us to provide the best quality care. Now you notice this animal right over here on the amphitheater side with all of you folks over by me, her name is Annette. She's our one and only female California sea lion, and she has a pretty unique story to share. But before I share that story, I have a quick question for everybody out in the audience. I need you folks out there to raise your hands if you've ever rescued an animal. How many of you out in the audience have ever maybe adopted a cat or a dog from the Humane Society or the shelter, or maybe even helped a turtle cross the road? Hands really high up in the air. Look around, look at all these great hands up. I need a big round of applause for all of you. You did a fantastic job. Thank you so much for being animal heroes and wildlife heroes even in your own communities. Now the reason why I asked that specific question, because half of our animals right here at the landing, including Annette, are rescued individuals as well. They needed a permanent home, and thankfully, we received that right here in South Carolina. Now Annette, unfortunately, was a wild animal out on the coast of California, and her story had a little bit of a unique ending. In fact, on multiple occasions, 5 total, she was found stranded right off the coast. She was unable to return herself back out in the wild and thrive by hunting fish out in the Pacific Ocean. Now, every single time she was stranded, she was successfully rehabilitated back out in the wild, but then proceeded to strand herself again, and again, and yet again. And on that 5th stranding location, it was determined by scientists that she needed a permanent home in order to thrive. So, that's when Riverbanks raised our hands and said that we would be that permanent home for her, and that way she would not only be able to survive, but also to thrive, just like she's doing here today. Now, like I mentioned, out of our 6 residents here at Sea Lion Landing, 3 of those individuals were rescued right out of the wild, just like Annette's story was. If you have more questions about those rescue stories, come find me. Once again, my name is Lila. I'd love to answer more questions you might have about them. But now over here on amphitheater side, it looks like TJ is going to be joining us. He is one of our animals that was born in human care right up in New York State. And he is one of our younger animals, even though he has grown drastically since he moved here to Sea Lion Landing. But you notice I said 6 animals that live in the landing, 5 of which are California sea lions, and 1, which you might be lucky to see later this afternoon, is a harbor seal. Now they do have very unique differences between our sea lions and our harbor seal that you'll be able to notice right off the bat. Not only their color, but also their size and shape as well. So I encourage you to keep your eyes peeled for some of those unique differences. But I will be frank with all of you, there was an animal that I missed this afternoon, and that animal is a giant sea turtle. How many of you have seen a sea turtle here at the zoo so far? Oh my goodness, a lot of you made your way around the zoo. Perfect. Well, this sea turtle that I'm talking about is the biggest we have. In fact, his name is Herman, and he is made entirely out of plastic trash. Now, how many of you have seen Herman? You know who I'm talking about? He's a very iconic animal. You can't miss him in our underwater viewing gallery at the landing. But Herman was constructed to help share that plastic message that Georgia helped me share a little earlier. That message is that we can do a lot to save and protect animals out in the wild. Because of course, we don't want things like plastic bags or bottles or straws ending up in our world's oceans and polluting their environment, and maybe even ending up in their stomachs instead of the seafood they're supposed to eat. Now, weirdly enough, Herman was made out of items found on the Atlantic coast, the Pacific coast, and shockingly enough, right here in our Saluda River right in Colombia. He's here at the zoo, and we encourage all of you to do the same and join us in that initiative. So I encourage you, after our feeding and training demonstration, go over, say hi to Herman, take a selfie with him, and then look all around his body and see all those different plastic pieces that make up his unique sculpture. In fact, you might be lucky enough to look for those messages in a bottle and learn a little bit more about how you can make a difference for animals like sea turtles and sea lions and harbor seals as well. But as our keepers continue to interact with our animals, up on top deck you're going to notice a whole lot of splashing from Baja once again, that big 500+ pound animal. But here, once we begin to wrap up this feeding and training demonstration, don't worry, it's not our last. In fact, at 3:30 you can join me at our African elephant habitat to learn a little bit more about our largest animals in the entire zoo. But here, as we begin to wrap up, I encourage you to stick around, say hi to Herman the sea turtle, keep your eyes peeled for those sea lions and harbor seal as well. But enjoy, most importantly, the rest of your visit here at Riverbanks Zoo and Garden. And folks, thank you all for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
That makes sense. I knew it. Oh, he's skipping her. Look at that. Stand up. Oh, you see that? Ellie, look, he's standing.